him putting his hands in our uteruses. We are here to tell him he does not get to be safe and feel comfortable if we don't.
I'm intruding on their privacy. He's intruding on my personal right of freedoms.
His intrusion into our bodies, into our healthcare, and his egregious, to use his word, theft of our rights deserves an equally dramatic response.
All right, those were protesters outside the home of Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito. Bianca, the Biden administration and some Democrats calling this response to the draft Roe v. Wade opinion freedom of speech, freedom of expression. But there are, of course, laws on the books against protesting these justices to intimidate them and to try and influence their decision.
For the very latest on this, we want to bring in congressional correspondent Kilmeny Dukar covering the latest developments from outside the Supreme Court, which is still fenced in. Kilmeny.
John, Bianca, for days now, we've been seeing these protests outside the homes of these 6 conservative-leaning justices. This was after a left-wing organization published their home addresses. Google has since taken down any posts related to their precise location, but that did not stop protesters on Monday evening outside Justice Samuel Alito's home. It now appears that these efforts are being controlled and censored by the groups themselves. Interesting to note, Shutdown D.C., which held that march and vigil last night at Alito's home in Virginia, were vetting these protesters, demanding their name, phone number, email, and social media accounts in order to keep media and pro-abortion activists away. That is actually a Class 3 misdemeanor in Virginia, not only picketing outside of somebody's home, but disrupting an individual's tranquility inside the home. Republican Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell says this is just simply a violation of federal law.
Trying to scare federal judges into ruling a certain way is far outside the bounds of First Amendment speech or protest. It is an attempt to replace the rule of law with the rule of mobs. It appears this may possibly be flat out illegal.
Well, the battle now moves to the Senate. The Senate's going to be taking up on Wednesday the Women's Health Protection Act. Let's go through some of the details of that bill. It would guarantee abortions for any reason up to the point of fetal viability, which is considered to be around 23 weeks, for any reason, including whether the individual prefers a child of a different gender. After that point, a doctor is to use quote unquote good faith medical judgment, which can be a broad range of reasons, including mental or emotional health, where pregnancies can be terminated up to 9 months. Interesting to note here that Republican Senators Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins have supported codifying Roe into law, but they say that this legislation simply goes too far. It is doomed to fail when it hits the Senate floor, despite calls to break that Senate filibuster to pass it with a simple majority. John, Bianca.
All right, thanks to Kilmeny Dukar for us live on Capitol Hill. Joining us now is Missouri Attorney General Eric Schmitt. General, great to have you back with us. And we appreciate your patience. We had to go to the president there for a little bit. We know you've been standing by outside there. So thanks for staying with us.
Sure thing. Good to be with you guys.
Now, I know you see this. There's an obvious double standard here when it comes to these protests and the riots. If it's sparked by an issue that the left agrees with, it's all good, even on the front steps of a Supreme Court justice's home. Here's CNN's Valerie Jarrett, who's the daughter of former Obama advisor, Lori Jarrett, who's the daughter of Valerie Jarrett, talking about this on CNN.
I think for a lot of people, a conversation about civility feels like it misses the mark when constitutional rights that you believe that you had for over 50 years are about to be overturned. The justices have security. So far, all of the protests have seemed overwhelmingly nonviolent.
One of the key things I think she says there that we need to highlight is, you know, the constitutional rights that you thought you had have been removed. Nowhere in the Constitution does it talk about this, and I think this is one of the misconceptions by the left, that they felt like this was a constitutional right, but it's not.
Right. It was made up at the time, 49 years ago. The 9 unelected judges at the time took away this debate away, took it away from the entire country. And if they overturn Roe v. Wade, which I hope they do, they'll return it ultimately to the people, to our republic, to decide state by state of what they want those laws to look like. And so we're going to get back to where we probably should have always been. But this kind of behavior you see outside the justice's home, I mean, this is third world, thug kind of behavior with an attempt to intimidate and get an outcome that they desire. But this should come really as no surprise. You look and see what the left did, whether it was Robert Bork or Clarence Thomas or Justice Kavanaugh, it all had to do with this issue. And so there's no norm, there's no rule, there's no law they're not willing to break to get their way. And that ought to frighten all of America, that there's people out there willing to go outside these homes with the intent to intimidate and likely violating federal law in the process.
For sure. I mean, so basically the crux of it, and whether or not these remain nonviolent protests, which we hope they do, that is that federal U.S. Code 1507 making it illegal to influence a federal official for an outcome of a court case. It appears that's what's being done here. So why aren't we hearing anything from the DOJ?
Well, because it's become a political operation of the Department of Justice. Remember, this is the same Department of Justice now that worked with the National School Boards Association to weaponize the FBI to investigate parents who had the gall to show up to school board meetings because they were objecting to critical race theory, which, by the way, Merrick Garland's son-in-law is working for Panorama that provides a lot of these materials to schools. So they've weaponized the FBI, the Department of Justice has, to go after parents who were peacefully objecting in a school board meeting, but they refuse to go after and to investigate these folks who were in front of people, the Supreme Court justices' homes, which is very obvious meant to intimidate these justices to get to a certain outcome. That was the reason why this leak happened in the first place. I think Americans have had enough of this stuff. They want their country back. They believe in the rule of law. We believe in an independent judiciary. They're supposed to make these decisions. But, to have these sort of folks out there in front of their homes, it's beyond the pale. The Department of Justice, and by the way, the president ought to be speaking in his press conference here where he's, lying to the American public about his accomplishments. He ought to be standing there today condemning this and telling people to stand down. This is not good for our republic in the long term, in the short term, no matter how you slice it. The idea that you're having people intimidate Supreme Court justices just to get your way is ridiculous.
All right, so the Attorney General of Missouri there also disagreeing with James Rosen, who is, of course, a White House reporter and has experience. I think to a lot of people outside of Washington, D.C., it just tastes and smells like a lie. They're not willing to parse it and spin and all this other stuff. I don't know about you, but we just want the truth, don't we, General?
That's right. And by the way, here are some other facts that weren't mentioned, and I know I appreciate James' comment, but look, on day one, he canceled the Keystone XL pipeline. He stopped offshore drilling. He stopped drilling on federal lands. He, undid the successes President Trump had at the border. He's spending money like a drunken sailor. Those are objective facts that have all led to this inflation that middle-class Americans are feeling. I know they're feeling in our state, and so you ought to just own up to it. But he's not. He's going to blame somebody else.
Well, we can't expect him to own up to it. The buck never stops at the Oval Office anymore. Attorney General Eric Schmitt from Missouri, great to see you. Thanks so much. And
great.
I know you're running for Senate as well. Great to see you.
Thank you.